So, let's follow these planets as we move this a day at a time, and just touch on a couple of the highlights that are coming up. First of all, it is June 7th, where Venus, right down here at the bottom, makes its exact harmonious trines with Saturn and Neptune. So between the 6th and the 7th, and so that would be that's Friday? Yeah, today's the 5th. So between now and Friday, it's a really good time to sit and think about what you want and turn it into an intention. Even though, because it's a trine, it might be easy not to, because you may feel like, well, for the next day or two, I have what I want. And so it's a little bit tricky. But this is a really good time to focus your intentions on things that you would like to see happen in your life. As we move, and one other thing also on the 7th is that Mars is how we do things. Mars is the warrior planet. Mars is in Gemini. Remember, Gemini's restless and curious and a bit scattered. Mars in Gemini is some of that energy that has us all a little bit, kind of hyperactive these days. And Mars on the 7th forms an exact square with Neptune, the planet of dreams. And so even though we may know what we want, that's the Venus, attraction, desire, in that harmonious pattern, with the Mars squaring Neptune, we may not know how to get it. And that's okay. You don't have to go after what it is you want. You just have to be able to discern what it is that is a good thing to move towards setting goals. So that's on the 7th. By the 8th, we come up to the new moon, and let me just get the chart for the new moon here a little bit closer. So the new moon every month is when the sun and the moon are in the same place. And so on Saturday morning here in Redmond, Washington, the moon and the sun line up in Gemini, and this is the beginning of the next cycle. The new moon is again a time of setting intentions. And so that coupled with the Venus trines just the day before, and also the pressure and the stress building on this T-square, this is a great time between now and the weekend, especially Friday, and then maybe let what you want perhaps go, but maybe around the new moon on Saturday, just take 5-10 minutes, an hour, whatever, and create some sort of ritual around what it is that you would like to see in your life over the next month, over the next moon. Because at the new moon, the stating of the intention becomes significant. And that new moon in Gemini on June 8th, it's actually 9 o'clock in the morning here in Seattle. That new moon, though, is really significant because it is exactly now, the moon is exactly square to, what did I do here? Hold on. On the day of the new moon, Mercury, the planet of the mind, here we go, is exactly square to Uranus. You see how this triangle, you see, often when we look at this chart, the colors in the middle, the lines are very thin. And when they thicken up, that means that they're more exact. And without even knowing what they mean specifically, we can see that at this new moon, what's interesting is that the sun and moon itself don't have any real connections, but everything else is buzzing. We may feel a bit disjointed. We may feel like we're not connected with the rest of our lives in some odd way, but we still get to make that intention that is very important at the time of the new moon. We move on and, let's go back to moving this a day at a time. Normally I get to do this while Jeff talks. Jeff, where are you? Come back from China. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I got an email from him. His workshop so far have gone well. He's doing well. and the air is difficult to breathe. So by June 11th, we have the exact Saturn-Neptune trine. But you see how these little planets are kind of beginning to move out of the way? Do you see how thin these lines are? And here we come to an important concept in astrology. The slow-moving planets hold their positions. The Saturn-Neptune trine is exact on the 11th, but we may feel it more the few days before when the littler planets are humming with it. By June 12th, Venus has now stepped into the place where Mercury was at the new moon. And Venus is now lined up square and opposed to the Uranus and Pluto. And I'm expecting this to be economic. Venus is often love, but Venus is anything of value and is often tied to economics. So we may see some economic meltdowns, whether they're in another country or here. And you might say, well, I know, but aren't there always that? And the answer is, yeah, we've been in that phase and we certainly can expect more. But I wouldn't be surprised if over the next week or so, something comes out or, things happen that really shake things up again, especially as Venus comes into this picture around the 11th and the 12th. We have another issue that's beginning to take astrological predominance and builds for about a week. And that is the sun is moving. The sun goes around once a year. Jupiter goes around once every 12 years, which means that day by day the sun is catching up with Jupiter. And on June 19th, the sun actually catches up and moves ahead from Earth's point of view of Jupiter. Can you see how that happens there? The sun lines up with each of the outer planets once a year. Because the sun, from Earth's point of view, it's like once a year the sun catches up with each of the other planets. Jupiter is the planet of bigger, better, more. Jupiter is the magnifying lens. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. In fact, Jupiter and the sun together have most of the mass in the entire solar system. And from Earth's point of view, when Jupiter and the sun line up, again, in ancient astrology, this is considered to be pretty damn good because Jupiter is a pretty damn good planet. It makes more of anything. It's the planet of beneficence. It's the planet of joy. It's the planet of happiness. It's the planet of confidence. Jupiter is big. It's like, Jupiter people, it's the politician that's promising you everything. Jupiter is like, it's not your parent because they're hard on you. It's like your aunt or uncle. It's like your uncle who's always giving you shit. Jupiter it's like lucky. And when the sun lines up with Jupiter, in ancient astrology, this is pretty cool. However, to misquote Mae West, who said, I'll quote her first, then I'll misquote her. Mae West said, too much of a good thing is a good thing. And I'd like to say that from this standpoint, too much of a good thing isn't a good thing. Because we can become excessive. We can become overindulgent. We can take something too far. We can get messed up because we don't know what our limits are. Someone can come and offer us the sky, and we can pay everything that we own to this person because we know we're getting the sky, and then it just disintegrates and disappears. It's that golden ring on the merry-go-round where you can reach for it, but you can also fall off the damn horse as you reach for it. And even when you get it, it probably isn't the golden ring. It's just one of those silver ones, or you can't quite reach it anyhow. So this Jupiter-Sun conjunction that is exact on June 19th, that for the next couple of weeks, it feels like no matter how difficult things are, no matter what kind of issues we're facing, it feels like good news is coming. It feels like there's something around the corner that's getting bigger and better, and and that's all good, because Jupiter encourages us to go on a journey, to take a chance, to do it. And the thing to keep in mind is that it may not be what we think it is. It may not be as good as we would like it to be. But just the going on the journey then creates its own. It's like if we don't do it, we'll never have the experience. So this Sun Jupiter, basically, between now and and June 19th, is basically saying, reach, go for it. And what's interesting is that just 2 days later, on the 20th, actually 1 day later. It's hard without Excel to know how many there are between 19 and 20. So on the 20th, actually at 10 o'clock p.m. here in Seattle, the Sun moves from the sign of Gemini into the sign of Cancer. Remember, Venus and Mercury have just done that over the last few days. On the 20th, the Sun moves into Cancer. We call this the summer solstice. This is the point at which the Sun is the highest in the sky in the northern hemisphere at noon. It's the longest, the most daylight hours. This is the night where it doesn't get dark until some ridiculous time here in Seattle, like 9:30 or 10 o'clock or something like that. And for those of you who stay up late or get up really early, it's light again at 4 something in the morning, as opposed to the winter when it seems like it never gets light. So the Sun's move into Cancer is the beginning of a new astrological month. But we've had this early warning from Mercury and Venus, kind of already saying, putting our emotional feelers out there. Now, as the Sun moves into Cancer on the 19th, the Cancerian energy thickens. We become more concerned with protecting our own emotional security. We may become more fearful, but at the same time, we also become more nurturing of those we love. Cancer is a water sign. Remember, we have Saturn in Scorpio, a water sign. Neptune in Pisces, a water sign. As the Sun moves into Cancer, we get that grand trine or grand triangle that we have going now. We begin to get it buzzing again. So there's that feeling of stability, of emotional safety. And yet at the same time, as I move this over the next few days, watch this line thicken up and this line appear as the Sun makes its opposition to Pluto and its square to Uranus. And you can see how over those days that thickens up, and that becomes the predominant pattern through the end of June and on through the beginning of July. Another very important event happens. There's actually 3 more important events that happen by the end of the month. We'll get through all of them. The first that I want to talk about is that Jupiter, which has been in Gemini for a year, Jupiter spends 1 year in each sign. It's in some ways it's the origin of Chinese astrology, where there's, depending on what year you were born is what sign you are. Well, it takes Jupiter 12 years to go around the Sun once. And so it spends 1 year in each sign. And on June 25th, Jupiter moves from Gemini into Cancer. Now remember, we've already had Mercury and Venus move into Cancer.